This is the fifth class. Nothing besides that will help us. So very briefly, let's very fast review everything until now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. A person has to understand before he starts to go on shidduchim. A person has to understand before he starts to go on shidduchim. He has to understand he's doing it. Shidduchim means going on dates, or even marriage. You can comply to your own marriage life too. It's not so far-fetched. That he is officially 100% psychologically ready to go on this journey. It's a journey. You know how Avram Avinu left from Haran and he went to Eretz Yisrael? That's what marriage is. You're going to a desert, to the unknown. Everything you thought beforehand is really not what it is. You have to understand that I'm psychologically ready for this commitment that whatever is going to happen in this situation, I'm 100% taking it belev shalem, without any issues. Which means I'm not getting married because I want to impress my friends. I'm not getting married because I want to impress my parents or get them off my back because they're bothering me. Like, you know, the famous saying, I got married when I was 17. Where are you guys this generation? Okay, that was you and this is me. I don't need to impress anyone in order to get married. And I also don't need to run away from anything before I get married. A lot of people have this misconception they're getting married to run away from something. And that's the biggest chirum, that's the biggest issue. People have to understand they're getting married, they're not running away from anything, they're not hiding anything, they're going, belev shalem, they're going to start a family, al pi dat Moshe v'torateinu hakdosha. That's what it is. And if a person feels he still has a certain package that he needs to fix, now, I want you to understand something. Everyone always has something to fix. There's no such thing. You cannot get married and say, I'm a perfect human being. Lahefech. You'll realize how really imperfect you are. But it shouldn't be that you're getting married is because you're running away from something. Because what happens, you get married, you come with a big luggage, and there's huge issues after. Things beyond your even understanding. That's number one. Number two, a person has to know and even though you went out for a long time, even if you're engaged, and even if you're about to get married, you have to ask yourself this question because it's easier to break chas v'chalil an engagement than break a marriage. It's already a different ballgame once you're married. Total different ballgame. Person has to ask himself, is this really the person that I feel in the long run I can raise kids and a family that I want to raise? Everyone to his own madriga. Again, it has nothing to do with religion or not religion. You have to understand that. I'm not bipartisan on any sect. Even if you're a goy, even if a goyim hear this, even if you're a goy, and if you have a different ideology than your spouse on how you want to live your life, chirum, it's going to be a big issue. A huge issue. So the person has to come to understanding that I am ready on certain facts and I want to find a shidduch in that certain criteria. Which is extremely important due to the fact that when you get married, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nihya b'daro. That when I get married, there is no going back. This is very scary. It's an extremely scary thing what I just said. When a person can come and say that, listen, I'm getting married, I had a good shidduch, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm just trying it out. No. This is a big issue. You cannot come into that mindset, into a relationship that you want to start your life with. You can't. Because not only are you putting yourself in a sakana, open the window a little bit. Open the window. Not only are you putting yourself in a sakana, you're putting also the other person in a sakana. Because to get remarried once you're divorced is a different ballgame. Regardless if you have kids or if you don't have kids. You already fall under a different category which is not as easy as people think. Now, here was one of the first questions I got, and I think it's a very important question and I want to address it. It sounds funny. It sounds funny, but this is the reality. This is what people ask. Should your phones be turned off while you're going out? It's an interesting question, no? We're going to get into that. The first couple dates, absolutely not. You don't know who the guy is, you don't know who the girl is, maybe they're psychos. It happened. It happened that many people I know, they went out and they realized they're going out with a psycho. Crazy. What are you going to do if your phone's turned off? What are you going to do if you left your phone in the car? What are you going to do if you didn't take a phone? What are you going to do? Nothing. You're going to be stuck. You're going to feel endangered. Or even if you're already engaged and suddenly you see the guy becomes angry, he's about to hit, you always need to have a way to always have a phone. It's extremely important. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Now, does the man have to, at least since there's a big variety here, in this room there's married men and women. In this room there's also people that are about to get married, and in this room there are people that are not dated at all. So I have to address everyone to their own criteria. If a man constantly looks on his phone on a date, is that something you should worry about? It's a question I got. It sounds funny, especially if you're a little older. I personally think that a person should have derech eretz, and when he's going on a date, he should treat the person that he's going out with. And even if you're married, if you have a date night, even if you're married, see, people don't know how to put the same scenario if you're married. And even if you're married and you're taking your wife out, take your phone and put it away. You don't need to be on your phone. No one is as important right now as the person sitting across you. Put it away. You don't need to show a sense of something else is more important at this moment. Extremely important. And vice versa. Vice versa. Girls too, you have to understand, men, they're very, how we spoke last year, men, their understanding of love has nothing to do like the concept of how women understand it. Our mivneh, our build, our psyche is built different. When a man feels that her attention is deviating somewhere else, he loses his self-confidence on the spot. On the spot, he loses his self-confidence. And that can make a big issue on the shidduch. Is it right or wrong? It's a matter of opinion, you said, and I agree with you. But as an advice, I would tell you, especially if you're in the beginning of your dating world, don't be too addicted to the phone. When do you latch off from the shadchan? If you go through a shadchan. It's a big question, no? Let's say you get set up with someone. Now again, in our circles, this is not as all common, at least from what I know. When a man or a woman feels comfortable, usually after the third or fourth date, usually, that the person is someone that is compatible to their midot, they want to have the similar lifestyle, they already don't need to go through the second-hand person. They can go direct. It's not an issue. Now you're laughing, and I also laughed with you when I heard this question. Why? Because we come from we're still very old school. In this day, in our community, we're very old school. What does that mean? Third party? Someone's going to tell me how to go out, how not to go out. I'm a man, no? I'm Gruzini, I'm not just a man. I'm a real man. Like, what is this, right? What's going on over here, right? Psh, me? Huh. You'd be surprised, ya habibi. You'd be surprised. Sometimes, to have someone in between is extremely important. A lot of people pray and wait until the other person dumps them. Why? They don't want to make the other person feel bad. So they go on another date and another date and another date, and they're praying to mess up somewhere down the line so the other person can say, Ya khalas, I'm done with you. That's it. When you have someone in between, he does all the dirty work for you. Or she, whoever, it depends who the shadchan is. So you have to understand when I'm saying this, you have to be open-minded on both sides of the story. Is dating for someone, Rahman Litzlan, that was divorced different than when someone was never divorced? Unfortunately, in this generation, especially in the Jewish world, divorce is already on the 40% percentile. 40% of couples get divorced. Talking about in the Jewish circles. Forget about in the Goy circle. It's extremely scary. Is dating in such a circumstance different in which category? I'm going to be very honest with you. A person that goes through such a dramatic state of mind, regardless if they were married for a half a year, or a month, a week, or 10 years. When someone separates from a marriage, he automatically has certain traumas through that marriage. Automatically. There's nothing you can do about it. It's a fact of life. A fact. And a person that doesn't go seek professional help, if it's through a manhig or a rav or a psychologist, to each one their own derech. It doesn't make a difference if they have kids or they don't have kids. I wouldn't touch such a person. Not because the person is wrong or something's wrong with that person. No way, that's not why. Because you don't want to start a family on already issues. You don't want to start that. And people usually that grow up in houses that father and mother are not together understand exactly what I'm talking about. Even though they were never married yet. A person has to understand you're going on a shidduch, everything that happened in your past, you cannot tell yourself that I'm going to bring that into my marriage. I'm going to bring that into my relationship. Because you shouldn't do that. Because what happens is you take your traumatic state of mind that you went through and you bring it into the new marriage, and not realizing that whatever you've seen growing up is not necessarily the case to this person that you're married to. But what do? Subconsciously, that's the way you treat it. Why? Because psychologically, that's what you saw was the way of the interacting of the family. There was a story of a woman, I think I said it last year, I'll say it again. She grew up in a perfect house, as they say. Parents never fought, everyone knew what they had to do, and that's the way they lived. She got married, and she assumed that what is marriage for her? Perfect. No problems. You go in, you die after a certain age, and you're good to go. And when the first week or third week of marriage, suddenly she started fighting with her husband. She said, well, what is this? It's not marriage. A person has to come to a realization that not everything is just ice cream and chocolate. Sometimes to make ice cream, you gotta take the milk, you gotta batter it, you gotta fight it, you gotta hit it. And then you make it into an ice cream. Do not think that this, what you're, guys, which I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm just trying to give you the awareness. People don't hear the truth. They all hear the bubbles. It's so beautiful. It's great. And it is beautiful and great. But if you're not going to be mashkia, if you're not going to put your effort, if you're not going to do your due diligence, it's going to be hell. The Gemara says, Matzah isha ra'ah, some man that marries a bad wife, or likewise, if a woman marries a bad husband, it's the living hell on this earth. Hell that you heard about with the fires and all this kind of stuff that we hear, right? Is better than that. Much better. A person has to come to understanding, I don't want to live that life. And in order for a person to say, I don't want to live that life, he has to understand, I have to start working on my midot. And it's true, really, anyone can live with anyone. Be'emet, any human being can live with any other human being. Anyone. The question is, are you willing to work on yourself, or you're not willing to work on yourself? Are you willing to put your ego down, or you're not willing to put your ego down? People don't understand that a person that became tame, a person that's calm when he's much older in his life, they don't understand how much pain that person had to go through in order to come to the understanding that really the best thing in life sometimes is to la'avir dvarim, not to hold any grudges, not to hold anything inside. Let it out. It's okay. It's a teva. It's a nature. We are built differently. We're made to be different. It's like going to college, right? You marry your roommate. I would marry my roommate. Why? The same things in common. We like to party. We like to chill. We like to enjoy. What's there not to like, right? That's why you know why this generation everyone's becoming kumte. Because everyone just wants to associate with what they like. No one wants to work hard, unfortunately. Right? Everyone likes it, right? It's crazy. But in reality, when you're getting into the marriage state, you have to understand that's when your time of perfection is coming. What does that mean? Until you're not, you can be you can be in medical school all your life. Until you don't have the patient on the surgery table, you don't know anything. You don't know anything. You'll be in front of the guy, his heart is open. You're like, what do I do? But you finish Harvard, you have the best degree. No, ya habibi, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to... Why? Because that's the time of perfection. So you have to come to the understanding that, yes, I'm coming in with certain midot, and those midot that I'm coming in with are only here for me to work on myself. Marriage is working on oneself. And once you work on yourself, on those certain midot, on those certain characteristics, on those certain connections that you have, you become a perfect human being. The problem is, as we can see by most people, that they'll be married for 40 years, they're still having the same fights, husband and wife. Why? Because no one yet was willing to put their head down. And if they would both understand, if they would be ma'avir on their midot, their life would be beautiful. But our human nature, the yinika of the nachash, which the yinuka says when someone goes to the mikvah on the third dip of tefillah, when he goes and he has to have in mind that the yinika of the nachash should leave him. This is zohama that the nachash gave to us should leave us, which is this, not be able to have ahavat Israel. Getting married is the epitome of ahavat Israel. To put someone else's needs before your own needs. That's ahavat Israel. That's called loving every single Jew. Someone told me a story. I heard the story. I was very flabbergasted. I laughed. It's a nice story. There was a guy in the town, he was the biggest Baal Ish Chesed. He loved to do kindness. Loved it. This was his thing. He didn't know so much Torah, but what did he know? He knew how to help people. People need help with the sukkah, he'd build a sukkah. People need help with the Beit Knesset, people with parnasah, he would give money. Everything. He would help. He'd be always the first guy in line to help. One day he's walking, and he sees a lady holding so much shopping, and she's walking home, and she's struggling. He's screaming a block away, I'm coming to help you, leave it. The pasuk says in the Torah, you see someone struggling in the street, you have to help him. It's a pasuk in the Torah. People don't understand this. You see someone struggling with shopping, you have a mitzvah to go and help the person. Suddenly he goes up, he goes to the person, and who does he see it is? It's his wife. He's like, okay, you have another block, you can make it. You don't help your own wife, and your own kids, and your own father and mother, but yet you're willing to help the whole world? Where's that? That's fake Ahavat Israel. That's only kapayim you want. Kol hakavod lecha. Look at him. He helped everybody. And his wife's over there. Yeah, he helped everyone. Watch what I'm doing to him. When we die in Obadiah, I'm going to make him such a kebab out of him. How he helped everyone, he didn't help me. A person has to understand when you're going into shidduchim, you're getting married, the first priority and the only priority you have right now is to that other person. No one else, nobody else is important. Especially once you're married. That is the most important thing. That person. But what's the problem? We grew up in a tight generation of both giving in and ego. Now we have to have that manly pride. A manly pride is when he knows how to give in. That's a manly pride. When he knows how to say, I'm wrong. Ta'iti. And that's why Yehuda was called the king of all Jews. Why? Because when Tamar came and said, this is the man that I'm pregnant from, Yehuda didn't say just burn her, let's get rid of her. What did he say? He said, Takami mini. She's more righteous than me. I sinned. I messed up. I did wrong. And Mashiach comes out of him. Why? Because he knew how to admit between right and wrong. You understand that concept? It's an extremely important concept. 80% of divorces is just because of this. You should know that.
And the rest.
I didn't hear you.
And the rest.
We'll talk about that. Akhwan al-Islam.
Mother.
Before I continue, does anyone have any other questions? No? No one has any questions before I continue? Okay. I had another question here. Let me just pull it out. Rabbi, I'm in seminary. Can I get married? Know those questions? I love those questions. I love them very much. I don't know why people think once they're in Israel for a couple months, they're ready to tackle the world. It's unbelievable. It's crazy. Rabbi say, if you're learning, if you're in a seminary or if you're in yeshiva in Israel or whatever the case is, you took that year or 2 years off, don't think about marriage. Think about how can you work on yourself. Don't think because you learned a little bit about Avram Avinu, Yitzhak Avinu, you think you're going to be Avram Yitzhak Avinu overnight. I know people think people are going to get turned off from what I'm saying, but the reality in life is inspiration does not mean you're ready for anything. Inspiration is only good for you to jump into the cold water. But once you're in the cold water, what do you say? Oh my God, how do I get out of here? It's too cold. Working on one's midot, that's being ready to get married. Do not think if you're in, someone texted me, I'm 4 months in Israel and I feel like I'm ready. I say, you're not ready. I don't even know who you are. I don't even need to know who you are, but you're not ready. You're not. Invest in your own Torah mitzvot, your own education. Invest in it. There's nothing wrong with investing in yourself. If it's going to daven, if it's being more tzanua, if it's learning more of the Chafetz Chaim, Lashon Hara, if it's learning regular things on midot, how to fix yourself. When you come back and you start figuring out a little bit yourself, then you can say, I think I might be ready. But before that, do not jump the gun. You have all your life to be married. All your life. All your life. Don't rush it if you're not 100% sure. Don't rush it. There's plenty of people out there in the world that are looking to get married. One mistake can make the rest of your life miserable forever. Forever. What's your question?
When do you know it's time?
Great question. I'll repeat half of the things I said. For a man or for a woman, it's a bit different. A man has a bit more of a responsibility than a woman. As we read in last week's parasha, a man has the obligation to feed her, to clothe her, and to shelter her. That is your responsibility, Habibi. It is not your responsibility to do any of that. It's a bonus. It's a bonus. When a man knows he's able to somewhat support himself, and I know people are going to think, oh, you're too primitive. No, I'm not primitive. I'm just married for a very long time, Baruch Hashem, with a lot of kids, b'lai nara, and I understand the struggles of couples that don't work and struggles of couples that do work. That's what I understand. I hit rock bottom. I'm on earth. I'm not in space. I don't live over there. I live over here, where people have bills and people have to take care of themselves. They have car bills and they have phone bill and they have food bill and they have rent. And with all the emunah you have, put the emunah in work. Don't put the emunah on your couch. I have emunah. No, you don't. You have laziness. When a person feels he is financially ready to support, that's the first aspect. That's number one. You also have to understand you're getting married to start a life, to start a life, a new life, not to run away from your last life. Because once you get married, everything that happened in the past, this is extremely important. You know, it's very big chirum when a man or a woman always reminds the other person, even if they're dating or they're married or they're very close friends and they think they're very open about the other person's past. It never ends up good. Why would you do that? Who are you? Who are you to remind them of their past, of who they went out with, or who their parents are, or if they're separated? Why are you bringing that into the picture? Who do you think you are? Who are you? To do that to a person, it's worse than killing the person. You're bringing past trauma and memories to a relationship that doesn't need to be brought in. You're going out with the person, you understood what you're doing. You knew the risks, you knew the conditions. Since you knew it, you have to live with it. And if you're living with it, that doesn't mean you have to bring it up. And this goes for people that are married and they bring up people's past lives. Why? You're hurting yourself more than you're hurting the other person, actually. Why would you do that? It's called det kisad in Russian. It's being a child. Those are people that are not married. They're not ready to get married. So when you're psychologically ready and you're financially ready, a person should get married. He should. Now he's going to ask a beautiful question. I'm waiting for his question. Go, ask your question.
What if, like, sometimes there's people that in kollel all day?
Correct.
And usually they think that they can learn and the wife is usually the one that supports the family.
Correct. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you. My opinion on kollel guys is it's not going to be brought up here. Because it doesn't make a difference. But, if that's the lifestyle he wants to live, and that's the lifestyle she wants to live, if these are the lifestyles that you both decide, then 100%, what's the issue? The problem is, you know what the problem is? After they get married, and unfortunately, this goes by a lot of people, they use that as a fighting mechanism. You learn all day, now I'm working all day. Wait. Stop. Pause. Did you choose this life with me? You chose with me, right? Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up.
So then when a man is ready, that means for him for him specifically, that means for him in a psychological
way.
Not
In that aspect, in a psychological way. Or in an aspect, let's say a person he's in college and he has outside help. Like I know a person that he was in dental school. He said, I'm not waiting till I finish dental school. He took additional loans, I don't know how he did it, in order for him, personal loans. He took an additional three years of loans just for him to live and get married while he finishes his schooling. Because he said, I'm going to reach a certain age, I found a good girl, and I don't want to wait. But at the same time, I don't know if we'll be able to manage it, so I'm finishing dental school. So he took an additional loan in order for him to live, and now he paid it all off, and now he has a practice, and so on and so forth. But the plan of how you're going to financially be ready must be on the table. You cannot live on fake emunah. It doesn't exist. Fake emunah is what we think ourselves. We think of Rav Nachman, which if you read his books, he doesn't talk about this. It's all the hamtzaot of the new generation of people that they find justification of what they want. I'll give you the opportunity. Give me 1 second. A person has to understand he has to make a plan. He has to understand that my hishtadlut is before I get married to talk about finances. You must talk to your spouse, your future spouse, about finances. Usually that's the last thing they talk about, not the first thing. Because at the end of the day, finances can always be figured out. It could. This one will help, this one will work, this one. You can figure it out. But a person has to have a game plan. You cannot say, I have emunah. Okay, well, what am I going to do with your emunah now? Is your emunah finding you a job or no? No, the job is going to come to me. No, it's not. The job doesn't come to you. You're going to have to find a job. Do you understand the difference? Don't live this fake chassid. It's not even chassidism. It's avodah zarah. It doesn't exist. Fake emunah doesn't exist. What was your question?
You said you have to be prepared financially, and in your head. So let's say you're prepared at home, right? But when you move out, it's a whole different ballgame, you know? So should you as a man move out before you get married?
No.
To make sure that...
No, and I'll tell you why. Because if you can handle your mother, you'll be fine. When you move out, you know what happens to you when you move out? I'm just saying that as a joke. I don't actually mean it in that sense. When you move out, this is the biggest issue in the 21st generation. I'll tell you what it is. When a person starts to live on his own, he starts to create his own bubble of his own life. This is another big issue why it's very problematic for people to not get married when they're young. Why? Because as they get older, they create their own comfortability zone. And if they don't find a girl that fits into their comfortability zone, they don't want to get married. So too, when a guy moves out and he starts to do his own laundry, maybe he does it even at home, just giving you the criteria, and he starts to cook his own food and he pays his own bills. He's like, I don't need anyone. In essence, you really don't.
But what if you do at home?
Even if you do it at home, but once you're on your own, it's a different ball game. It's totally a different ball game. It's different.
So you said you should first be able to support yourself.
Correct. Well, I'm telling you, financially support yourself. That means you have enough income that at least pays for rent and food. All these other luxuries that we have in this 21st century. I am, Baruch Hashem, married for a very long time. I don't even have a car.
But how do you know you can afford rent if you don't have a rent?
Because you come to a conclusion that I make a certain amount a month, and the rates of an apartment is, I don't know, 21, 22, 23, and I can pay my rent. I don't need to get an apartment in order to pay it. I have to know my income, right?
You have to first one step at a time. You have to manage an apartment.
It's like saying I'm going to get an apartment without having a job. That's exactly what you're saying. A person only gets an apartment when
he knows he can afford
it. Correct? So if you know that you can afford it, why would you spend it on rent if you don't need anyone there besides yourself? That's another thing you have to think about. You understand? Or you don't. If you don't understand, ask it again. I'll explain it to you.
I feel like you have to be living for a little bit.
I think this is the liberal and the 21st century mindset that a person has to be living on their own in order, because people that start to live on their own, they put themselves in more issues. And I'll explain to you why. A man that can live on his own, what does he need a woman for? I just answered the question. Even for that, he doesn't need a woman. You don't need a wife for that. You don't. Think about it. I'm being very open with you. Because if outside people won't tell you this, you're going to be living in your own illusion. For what you need a woman? To have kids? You can have kids without being married. Lehefech, starting to live on your own gives you the more of the understanding of, I have more time I can wait. Let me enjoy my life more. What do I need this right now for? And that's even a bigger sakana. Now, am I telling the girls don't go out with a guy that lives on his own? I never said that. I'm just telling you, when a person says, Lachatchila, I have to first live on my own, it's like saying, let me first live with her. Not just live on my own. Let us move in together. Let's act like we're a married couple. And later on in the future, we'll get married. What's the benefit of that? Because you just didn't say Hariyat Mikudeshet, you're practically married. What's the difference now? You're living with her. What are you going to find out? Once you guys live together, I want you to understand this fact. Once a couple lives together, they're considered married.
So
guards go down and
week,
what?
Or 2 weeks ago.
That what?
What's the point of the whole ritual?
The point of the ritual is commitment. That's the difference. I can live with someone and at the end say, listen, get out. But once you have a commitment, For you to say get out is already a different ballgame. And that's why there's the ketubah. You have to pay a certain dowry to the woman if you divorce her. She's not just divorcing her. You have to pay up. Whatever. Even if you have a prenup, right? Halachically, you have to pay a certain amount of money to the girl. Halachically. A person has to understand, why did the Chachamim do this? So a man should be smart enough to tell himself that a marriage is not just about having physical intimacy, but instead to have also an emotional intimacy that most people don't talk about. A man has to understand that me living with my wife is an avodah pnimi, it's an inner work. It's working on my kas. It's working on my ta'avot. It's working on my kabdanut, on my being very
articulate.
Exactly, to be stringent on people, to have an anger management. Once you're married already, you have to be extremely careful. And that's why we get married. To perfect ourselves. Because until you don't perfect yourself, you can't serve Hashem properly. The whole marriage process is only to get to that conclusion, is that I'm serving God to my highest potential. And I'm going to tell you something, Noah. When you reach that point in your life, which you will, because I know you personally, of I bettered myself, it will be the most pleasurable thing on planet Earth. Why? Because you're untouchable. Because you worked on yourself in such a way that no one can get you off. No one can tick you off. Why? Because you get to the point that everything comes from Hashem. The Gemara says some weird things I'm going to tell you. The end of Masechet Kiddushin says if your wife burns your food, you can divorce her. What kind of thing is that, Rabbi? What do we live 2,000 years ago? What kind of nonsense is this, right? Rav Akiva says if you find someone more beautiful, you can divorce her and go marry her. Like we'll go into the details of the Gemara, but what is the Gemara really trying to tell you? A person that's willing to get rid of because of physicality, you were never ready to begin with. You weren't ready to begin with. Marriage is not about physicality. The initial spark is physicality. But the continuation of the survival of the marriage is all a mental thing. It's all an emotional thing. A person is not willing to work on his midot, then he's going to crash. He's going to live with the person for 50, 60 years and every day be miserable. I don't think anyone wants to live a miserable life. It's not something I suggest to you. I don't suggest it to you. It's not a good thing. Hurtful. It's bad. It's disgusting. To come home to the person just wanting to strangle the person to death. And who's to blame? You yourself are to blame. No one else is here to blame. Only you yourself are here to blame. Any other questions? What's wrong?
How would you or your spouse together choose a Rebbe or guidance for yourself?
That's a very good question. And really this question needs more than just a 10-minute answer, but I'm gonna try to give it to you a little bit.
Should it be something both of you know and none of you know?
So you're already asking a marriage question, but I'll answer it because I know married people also listen to this. Everyone has someone that they connect to. Everybody. How is it that when we get married, we should find that one person that we both connect to? This is an extremely crucial topic. And this is what I found. I found personally that this is the answer. When a woman knows that your rabbi or your madrich really, whatever he says you do, she have no problem to go ask him questions as well. The problem is by this is when most people, they ask a question and they don't like the answer, they go to find other people to give them the answer. When a person knows, even if it's the other way around, it's irrelevant, but this person they're asking, regardless if we like the answer or not, his answer is the answer, that's it, it's done. It's done. Now, a person, of course, has to find a rabbi that's open-minded in the sense that he's not. There are a lot of rabbis that only follow their students are always right, and their wives, or the other way around, are always wrong. That's not right.
Sometimes people like to jump around to different rabbis because they don't like what they hear.
That's something else. But a person has to come to realization that whatever this rabbi that I pick and decide in my life, whatever he says, that's what we're going to do. Regardless if I like it, regardless if I don't like it, and so on. And I had many instances like this. I had an instance that my wife didn't like something. She said, I'm not going to ask you. She called my Rebbe on the spot. Had a 30-minute conversation in the other room. That's it. End of deal. That's what am I going to do? Nothing. The next day we spoke. We had a whole conversation. And it was done. Why? Because she knew I listened to him. You're not going to listen to whoever I'm going to go to. I'll go to who you go to. No problem. End of story. And that's the right proper way. That most couples come to, why most couples don't come to this conclusion. Because either way, the guy will not listen to his rabbi. He'll listen, he say, yeah, what does he know? He's not living with you, look at you. If he would live with you, he would tell you something totally different. Why did you just say that? Because you don't like the answer? That's already a different thing. Understood? Anything else? No questions on this side? At all not? Okay. I have another question that I got, and with this I want to tell you something without the camera. Okay. This was the question. I'm just trying to find it. Sorry. That's whoever sent me that question. I cannot. That's not on a dating series. That's more on a marriage series. Kivud ava'em. Delicate topic, right? But I'm not scared because I'm already married. Kivud ava'em. When do you listen and when do you not listen? It's a good question, right? What's kivud ava'em? When do you have to listen to your parents and when you don't have to listen to your parents? HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought down to this world Rav Yosef Karo, and he gave us the guidelines. I had a father one time come to me. He was driving a hole in my head. I said, listen, why are you fighting with me? Can I show it you inside? What did he want to tell me? He said, my son is learning Torah, but I want him to go work. I want him to work, and he wants to sit and learn Torah. Do I have to force him to leave? I said, absolutely not. What do you mean? And he was fighting with me, and I said, it's not my opinion. If you ask me, I agree with you. You should leave. You should go work. Torah is not about emotions. It's about logic. I opened up the Shulchan Aruch for him. I opened up to him the Rambam. I said, look, what do you want from me? The rabbi said. I didn't say anything. It's nothing to do with me. When does a man have to listen to his parents and when does he not have to listen? And likewise also for girls. But the girls are a bit different. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't talk too much about girls because in our days it's a bit different because you have to understand. The Gemara talks about certain instances when a woman came in with a big dowry to the marriage. Usually it wasn't like that. I'm going to be very honest with you. Nowadays, Baruch Hashem, Hashem made it in a way that the woman should also make a good hefty parnasah, which is a good thing. A lot of boys get intimidated when the woman makes more than the man. I think you shouldn't get intimidated. If you guys are both on the same page, you both respect your decisions and how you live your livelihood, and that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That's the way I feel. Every person is different. It could be that men are scared because they might use it one day against them. I make more than you, and have this childish argument. But in reality, if you are both working together, what does it make a difference? Your luck is different and her luck is different. Does a man have to listen to his parents regarding a shidduch? And the answer is yes and no. A shidduch is regarding going out, getting married. If a boy wants something or someone that is more beneficial for him regarding Torah and mitzvot, of course, it still must be spoken about. You can't take what I'm saying, the letter of the law. Usually he doesn't have to listen to his parents. But if the parents are trying to set him up with someone that's good, Yirat Shamayim, but he decides, Ya Habibi, lo rotzeh, Ya chachu kaif avad, Pap, I want to go clubbing with my wife. What is this? And I had a case I had yesterday. I promise to you. That's what the guy comes. The father's calling me crying. He said, my son told me he wants to go clubbing with his wife. He wants to get drunk with her. He wants to chill with her. Well, what do I do? In that instance, the parents can be tokef and not make them get married. But if a boy comes and says, listen, she's a good girl, Yirat Shamayim, Torah mitzvot, this is the kind of family or the girl I want. The parents, even though they can be tokef, they can try to break it, you can still be stubborn and marry the girl. Now, I want you to also understand, if the parents are logical and they're doing it because they're scared of your finances, I understand. But if your parents are trying to break a shidduch because her grandfather's mother's father's sister back in one country said something bad to one of your relatives, then you have to very kindly and nicely, just those people need to grow up. You don't break shidduchim because what happened 50 years ago. It doesn't work this way. And you're laughing, and it happens every single day. It happens every day that people that they want to get married, the parents don't let them get married because somewhere down the line in one family, 100 years ago, they hurt each other's feelings. It's ridiculous. How about a girl? A girl that wants to get married to a guy that promises her, listen, I'll keep Torah mitzvot after we get married. It's hard for me. Let me make babki right now. Let me make some money right now. We're not married. I'll keep Shabbat later. Tia chachama, be smart. Be smart. Be smart. If that's the life you want to live. If you want to live that kind of life, then who am I to say anything? Who am I to say anything? But if you don't want to live that lifestyle, and you want to have a traditional, לפחות מסורתי ספרדי, not מסורתי אשכנזי. Masarti Sfaradi is they keep Yom Kippur, Shabbat, Kashrut. Masarti Ashkenazi is they watch TV and eat also Shabbat table. That's different. Masarti Sfaradi, you have to understand, better get hurt, be depressed for a month or two, get over the guy, then get married to him and be miserable for the rest of your life. I'm telling you. If that's one thing you take from this shiur, take this advice from me. Better to cry couple months, feel like garbage, then get married and then get divorced. Because once you're divorced, you reach a different ballgame. That label automatically comes on you, regardless. I know a girl that's getting divorced, Rahman, Hashem should give them, they should go back together, they shouldn't get divorced. I pray for their success every day, and hopefully they do the right thing. Just to tease her guy, her husband, she says, listen, once I divorce you, in 3 months I'm going to get remarried. Like, this is such a toxic way of speaking. Like, who you hurting? You're hurting yourself. Why would you say that? What are you trying to pursue? What are you trying to say? Like, where's your brain? That shouldn't be on your mind. On your mind should be, I want to work it out. I want to fix it. Let's try to see what we can do. Because she doesn't understand that, God forbid, one day when she'll fight with her another husband, he will one day say, you're divorced once upon a time. It's inevitable. You can't stop that. It's going to happen. And even though rabbis are going to call me for saying what I'm saying, I'm going to tell them, Ya Habibi, I don't think you know enough divorced people in your life. Because every person I know that got divorced, they always came back and they said, Ya Habibi, I made a mistake. I'd rather have lived with him and suffered than live with this trauma now that I'm living with the second one. People don't understand this. That's why when you make your decision of who you're going to marry, use here, this head. Don't use any other head. Use this head. This head will tell you to do the right decision. All other heads will tell you to do the wrong decision. Do you understand? Yes, thank God.
I know somebody who got divorced and got married again.
Yes.
She wants to get married to her first husband.
She wants to go back to the first husband. Yeah, I know a lot of. She can't. She's done. That's it. Forget Cohen. I don't know the case. Cohen, not Cohen. Once a woman gets divorced and gets married to another human being, she can never, ever return back to her first husband. And unfortunately, majority of divorced people, after they get remarried, they say, we want to go back. Done. No, even if she divorces the second guy, she can, that's it, it's done. Done. The Gemara says once there's a different person, you can't do anything about it.
Passes away.
Rabbi.
No, even if he passes away.
She cannot get married?
Nope.
Rabbi.
She can never go back to her first husband.
To her first, so she could get married.
She can get married to whoever she wants after that. But back to her first husband, she can never get married.
Rabbi.
Huh? I can't hear you. No.
Rabbi.
No.
Men are different.
Rabbi.
And I tell you why. I want you to understand something. Shh. I know a lot of the girls and the guys are getting emotional. Let me explain to you. Let me explain to you the logic. Have a good day, everyone on the camera. Close it up.